So today we are talking with our agency partner, Diana Buscetto of SAVA Insurance, on the second part of our series, the importance of EPLI and D&O coverage. Last time we focused specifically on the EPLI coverage, and today we're going to focus a little more of our time on the D&O coverage. Diana, thank you for joining us. And do you think you could share with us the difference between EPLI and D&O insurance?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me again. I always love chatting with you. On our first session, we focused, as you said, on the employment practices liability. That gives the organization coverage if they're sued by an employee for wrongful termination, discrimination, or harassment. The directors and officers is a little bit of a pivot from that. So the directors and officers coverage gives coverage to board members, founders, officers, if they're actually brought into a suit from any decisions that they could make, misappropriation of funds. And it will also give the directors and officers coverage if they're sued personally, along with their spouses as well.
It sounds like directors and officers coverage is important for all organizations. Does that include nonprofits as well?
It does. So the directors and officers coverage can be put in place for a for-profit or a nonprofit. The reason why a lot of the nonprofits, why it's so important, is because a lot of the board members who are on nonprofit organizations, it's not a paid position, it's a volunteer position. And what people don't realize is when you're sitting on a board, you can be personally sued and they can come after your personal assets. So having that directors and officers policy in place, especially for the nonprofit who's running on a really lean margin to begin with, they can't afford to pay defense costs or settlement costs. I mean, those average claims can be anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000. So for that $1,000 or $2,000 policy, it's money well spent. And it helps recruit board members as well, because they know that they have that protection if for some reason something happens when they're serving on a board.
This is great information simply because I think many business owners are consumed with so many aspects of their business.
Yep.
That this might not be something that they're thinking of and could be a very large liability for them without them even knowing it.
And the biggest part that, it's gotten crazy over the last 5 to 10 years as far as, what these claims are being settled on. And a lot of times it can be no merit to the claim, but if somebody's alleging something, it's the defense cost that can break a business for-profit or a nonprofit organization. So it is a really good policy that people, especially nonprofits, should have in place.
Can they be packaged? Can EPLI and D&O coverage be packaged together?
A lot of carriers will write it that way. And what they do, it's kind of like a bundle. And by doing the employment practices liability and the D&O together, it kind of alleviates any of those potential coverage gaps. So we always recommend, obviously there's always a situation where maybe it's not the best to put it together, but the majority of the time it makes sense to bundle both of those two policies together. And they're a very cost-effective policy. It's not something that's going to break the bank for people to consider.
Thank you very much. I think this will be, again, very helpful information to all businesses out there, and we can't wait to share it with them. As we mentioned, this is the second part of our series. We're going to have a third part, and next time we're going to really focus on claims. So that should be very interesting information that we'll be able to share. Again, Diana, thank you very much for sharing this information with us. It's been a huge, huge help. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Steph.